You know why? Because Oral Roberts said, a man who does not have a successor is not a success. If you don't have a successor right now, even with 5 people, you're not a success. If you are a leader, you will immediately be training your successor. Should you die, should you be absent, should you be called to a different mission field, you must have a successor. If you do not have, you can have 10,000 people in your ministry. If you do not have a successor ready to take over, or a group of successors, you're not yet a success. Your congregation should be structured so that if you're not there for 2 months, Yahweh forbid you become disabled, it thrives without you. That may hurt your ego, that may hurt your psyche, but it can thrive without you. This place is built to thrive without me. For 6 weeks I wasn't here, didn't miss a beat. Preaching was okay, some other things were okay. That's my gift, it's never going to be better than me. But there are other areas that things might have actually gotten better. That's not the point. Forget about the ego. Okay, you've got to build your congregation with successors now, not when they come in, so that it can function without you, meaning it's Yeshua's work, it's not your work. If it needs you to function, it's not Yeshua's work. You understand? As long as you're there, be faithful. But you should be training successors. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Now I'm going to read you a few things, and then we'll take a few questions. And I'm not hungry, you may be, so we might need to make sure we eat. But let me read you that. And again, if you know anything about me, I like to read in the hot tub, on the porch. I'm like, revelation, preached by the Spirit, no notes. That's me, okay? But there are times when I have to be boring. So I pray you don't receive it that way, but there are certain things here that are important. So I'm going to go quickly. This is from The Next Generation Leader by Andy Stanley, son of Charles Stanley. Let me read you a few things, and probably not everything, so I can save time for some questions. Another thing is a leader is always working themselves out of a job. We already touched on that. Delegation, always working themselves out of a job. I used to do the worship, now he does the worship. I used to do the dishes, now, always working yourself. Always assign things to other people. Very important, very important. Do not wait for volunteers, so that you can do the work of the ministry through others. Please, I'd rather you wait for an upper room experience. Don't wait for volunteers. You clean, you do the lamb, you wash this, use this. Sometimes we have to be kindergarten cops. But that's what leadership is. And you earn the right through moral authority, through character. People know you're not living a double life. They'll respect you. They may not always agree with you, but you're clear. Without clarity, you can close your ministry today. If you do not develop clarity in your ministry, you can close the ministry today. We talked about the less you do, the more you accomplish. Yeah. We talked about having the right people in the right positions. Never be afraid to change the plans. Never change the vision. We talked about that. Remember something, and I want to read this, it sounds a little bit better than what I said. There are people love what you hate. There are actually people in your congregation that love what you hate. I hate doing this. Do you realize there are people that would actually love doing that? Delegate. You understand? They love teaching the kids. I don't like teaching the kids. But there are other people who love teaching your children. So ask them to. Test them. Delegate. Okay, leaders love progress. Listen, progress is what keeps them coming back to the task. Nothing is more discouraging to a leader than the prospect of being stranded in an environment where progress is impossible. If we can't move things forward, then it's time to move on. Progress requires change. Often it requires change. So nothing discourages leaders like lack of progress. True? When do you get most discouraged in your congregation? Lack of progress. It's not the gossip, it's not the backbiting. You're used to that. Right? What discourages you the most? Lack of progress. Right? So how do you deal with that? Very simple. You change what you're doing. You don't take on more things, you don't add on more things, you just change what you're doing. And change your plans. Change your plans, but you don't change your vision. Amen. A leader is someone who has the courage to say publicly what everyone else is saying privately. It is not a leader's insight that sets leaders apart. It is a leader's courage to act on what he sees when everyone else is silent and everyone else is stifled. Make sense? He acts. He sees something and he acts. Everybody else stays quiet. They don't act. A leader acts. He sees something, boom, he acts. Often leadership will require you to walk in the dark. Let me read this to you. Leaders are often required and require those around them to abandon the known and embrace the unknown, with no guarantees of success. As leaders, we are asking men and women not only to follow us to a place often they've never been, we are asking them to follow us to a place we have never been. Make sense? We're asking people to follow us to a place many of us have never been. Follow me. This is where I want to take you. But many times we ourselves have never been there, right? That's leadership. Courage, boldness to walk in the dark, even to a place that we have never been to. We're asking others to follow us, and they will if they hear clarity. If they hear clarity of purpose, they will follow you. You understand that, what leadership is? You're asking people to go to places that they're scared to go to, and frankly, you've never been to. Am I right? Many of you are doing leadership now and doing things you've never done before for the first time. Correct? And here you are asking people to follow you. That's leadership. Asking people to follow you to places you yourself have never been. Why? Because the vision is clear. The plans change, but the vision is clear. Amen. That is why the darkness or the unknown provides a leader with his or her greatest opportunities. When you see something that is dark, something that has never been done before, something that requires courage, those are usually the greatest opportunities. Make sense? It's never been done before. You're a leader. You do it. You be the first to do it. You be the first to lead the way. Walk in the dark and the people will respect you as a leader because you're clear about where you want to go. How you get there may not be that clear, but that doesn't matter. They'll change with you if they respect you and they know you're willing to lead. Amen. Courage is the willingness to move in a direction in spite of emotions and thoughts that tell you to do otherwise. Courage, listen, courage as a leader. Without courage, brothers and sisters, we're not going to be leading our groups and we're not going to be leading our congregations without courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, okay? Courage assumes fear and jumps ahead anyway. Courage is the willingness to carry your fears and still move ahead. That's what leadership is. It's not the absence of fear. It's the ability to strap on fear and move ahead. If you're afraid of what Yahweh has called you to do, and you're fearful about some of the things He's shown you, that's okay. That's perfectly all right. Leadership means you'll put on your fear and forge straight ahead. So that leadership is not the absence of fear. Well, when things are clear and when I have peace about it, and when all the perils have been removed, then we'll do this, then we'll move in this direction, then we'll tackle this. No, no, no. You've got the vision, you've got the purpose, strap on fear and plunge forward. Remember, your leadership can make a million mistakes. Your leadership can survive if you're wrong. It cannot survive without clarity. It cannot survive without courage. As a leader, you're going to have to be courageous. You're going to have to do things that maybe no one in your neighborhood, in your area, has ever done before. You understand what I'm saying? You cannot separate leadership from courage. Great leaders are courageous leaders. They fear failure. All leaders feel failure. But what makes a real leader versus a pretending leader, they strap on their failure, their fear, and they still forge ahead. Make sense? Talk. Yes? So don't say, oh, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of changing that. I'm afraid of changing this. I'm afraid of moving into a new building. I'm afraid of telling my people to wear head coverings. If you know the Torah says for people to wear head coverings, and you've never done it before, if you know that the people you may be afraid, what happens if I bring a real Torah? They'll think we're worshiping an idol if I bring in a real Torah. Put on that fear and forge ahead and buy a Torah. That's leadership. Do you understand? It's not the absence of fear, it is carrying fear and people will follow you. Strap it on and move ahead. Strap it on and move ahead. Leaders do not regret taking risks. A leader's regrets usually revolve around missed opportunities and risks not taken. Did you get that? A leader's regrets do not regret taking risks. See, a leader, what stifles us as leaders is the lack of progress. Risks don't really scare us, but not making progress, that scares us. Things staying the way that they are, no changing, no progress. We have 2 people a year ago, we have 2 people now. We have the same situation in the children's ministry then, we have the same situation in the children's ministry. Lack of progress will cripple a leader. And you know what makes progress? Putting fear and discouragement on your back and forging ahead anyway. Make sense? Baruch Hashem Yahweh. We've got this thing somehow, you know, oh, this guy must have no fear. Oh, this guy must not fear any. Oh, this guy must have supernatural faith. No, there's no such leader like that, brothers and sisters. We're all the same way. Great leaders are more scared of lack of progress than they are of failing. Failure doesn't bother leaders because we're all going to fail, right? Many times in our ministries, right? What really motivates us is stagnation. That really motivates us. Fear of lack of progress. That's what motivates us. You cannot lead without taking risks. And you will not take risks without courage. Courage is essential to leadership. Courage is essential to leadership. Remember I told you earlier I would throw a lot of things at you? Did I tell you the truth? I'm throwing all these things at you, right? That's good stuff, right? Let me read this to you. Capital follows courage. The courage to dream always precedes the capital needed to finance the dream. movements, defining moments in industry, breakthroughs in business, all begin with courage. As I said earlier, some of us are waiting for capital to do the things Yahweh has shown us. Not at all. First comes the courage to go where you haven't gone before and to trust Yahweh with your ministry, and then the capital will follow. You follow what I'm saying? Capital follows courage. Capital is given to those who take risks. We are called to take risks as leaders. Showing up to services every week sometimes is a risk. Right? We never know what anybody's going to say, what anybody's going to do, what's going to hit the fan this week. Oh, yeah. Right? What's going to happen this week? Right? So showing up sometimes is taking risks. Leaders must develop a courage to say no. Okay? Write that down, please. Leaders must develop a courage to say no. Does Yahweh say yes to all of our requests? No. Sometimes Yahweh says no. We must also say no. Can I do this? No. Can I lay hands on the sick so they can recover? No, you're not tested. Can I give a word of testimony? No. I don't know who you are. Can I give you a personal word for the congregation that Yahweh has given me? No. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you believe? What do you represent? What doctrine do you represent? In whose name do you come? Who is your authority? Who are you submitted to? Who is your covering? As a leader of B'nai Yeshua Synagogue, I encourage you not to let people prophesy over you or give you words from Yahweh without 2 or 3 witnesses. So when people come to you, you ever have this? Rabbi, I have a word for you. I have a personal word for you. Now stand still while I share this personal word for you. First thing you do is say, listen, excuse me, I don't receive words without 3 witnesses. Most of these things are not of Yahweh. And they want to confuse you. They're just sent to confuse you. So receive a word with 2 or 3 witnesses. Amen. And we'll open up for questions in just a few minutes. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything worthwhile. Let me read this to you. The leader who accomplishes great things will not always be the most talented or the best educated. He will be the leader who refuses to put brackets in his thinking. It will be the leader who refuses to limit himself by what others have done or failed to do. Dreaming requires courage. On the heels of every dream is a demon of doubt. Forge ahead and dream what Yahweh has put on your heart. The courage to dream what Yahweh has put on your heart. This is something we all deal with. Uncertainty. Right? Do you ever come to that situation in your ministry and your calling? I'm not sure. Now we're in trouble. Right? Because the sheep are depending on us to lead them to a certain place and a certain point, and we're not sure which way to go. You ever come to that place? Right? Uncertainty is not bad. Listen, uncertainty, remember I told you there are certain things as a leader that are okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to take risks and to fail. It's never okay not to give clarity. When you're not clear as a leader, that's the end of your ministry, that's the end of your work. But here's another thing, and remember, we are not to be well-rounded people, we are to be what? People who delegate all of our weaknesses so we can focus in on our strengths. Remember? So, and sometimes you and I should ask our spouse and say, sweetheart, or a loved one, can you please make a list of all my strengths and weaknesses? Because sometimes we don't know what our own weaknesses are, right? And we delegate those weaknesses and concentrate on our strength. But here's another thing. So we should not seek to be necessarily well-rounded people, but competent in a few good areas. Now, uncertainty is a permanent part of leadership. Uncertainty will never go away. Uncertainty is not an indication of poor leadership, rather it underscores the need for leadership. Did you get that? If you are not sure what time to have services, it underscores the need for courage and leadership. If you are not sure what to do with the children's ministry, that's okay. It underscores the need for leadership. So that uncertainty is a permanent part of leadership. It's a part of leadership that we wish would go away, that we wish wouldn't be there. Sometimes it gets discouraging not to be sure and to be uncertain. But trust me, uncertainty in ministry can be your best friend because it underscores the need for someone to lead. Make sense? Uncertainty is the environment that breeds leadership. Amen? I'm not sure. I got to study. I'm not sure. I got to get counseling. I'm not sure. I got to speak to my therapist, family, marriage, ministry therapist. I'm not sure. Let me speak to the elders. So that uncertainty is the environment by which good leaders are born and are step forward. Make sense? Don't think that you are not a good leader because sometimes you're not sure of what to do. Just the opposite. If you're not certain, that means there's a great opportunity for you to be the leader. You put on that fear, and you put on that courage, and you lead people into a place that they've never been before, and you've never been before. That's leadership. I've never had a Moed hole before, but I said to the people, look, one of two things can happen. I could be the next Jim Baker, and we could lose $50,000, or we're going to have ourselves a beautiful conference in Moed hole. Yahweh blessed us. Yahweh made sure things turned out okay, right? And that's why we're here today, right? So don't think that don't let the devil condemn you because sometime you're not sure of how to do things. That is an opportunity for you to show your leadership potential. Do you understand what I'm saying? The only thing out of everything that we covered that is a death knell for your leadership calling to serve Yahweh is unclarity. Your ministry can survive wrong decisions. Your calling can survive uncertainty. It will not survive. If the people don't know how you stand about people shacking up, if the people don't know if you approve or disapprove of marijuana, since it's only an herb in the congregation, and they're not sure, a mist in the pulpit will create a fog in the pew. And the fog in the pew will destroy your ministry. It is better to be clearly wrong than not be clear. Always remember that. I know it doesn't sound kosher, but it is. These are proven, tested techniques and leadership qualities. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. It is imperative, brothers and sisters, for us to learn how to thrive in uncertain environments. You know why? They will never go away. Do you realize that? No matter how successful we are in our ministry, the uncertain environments that Yahweh puts us in will never go away. We can never get rid of uncertainty. Correct? I'm not sure who